What is going on, everybody? As you can see, I am more dressed up than I have been all year long, and there's a specific reason for that. We are at the end of the year, so it's time for me to present my top 10 best films of 2018 to you. Now, don't be mistaken in thinking I'm not going to do a top 10 worst list. I know when I first did my top 10 best list, I didn't have a top 10 worst list. I'm going to this year. There were plenty of horrible films. That video will be up tomorrow, but now let's get into it. Before I get into my top 10 best and celebrate the best films in my opinion of 2018, a little bit of a disclaimer. These films might not be the best technically made films. They might not be perfect in every single aspect, but they are the films that I love, and this is just my opinion. You might have a different list, and that's great. Leave that down below so we can get that conversation started. Now, let's get right into this. Before I get into my number 10, let's start by talking about my honorable mentions. And my honorable mentions I have right here on this little whiteboard, and the honorable mentions that I do have are Halloween 2018. Really enjoyed that film, really fun movie. Boy Erased, impactful film, teaching people about something that is still going on that needs to change. Beautiful Boy, same thing as Boy Erased, a film with a powerful message about something that needs to change in our society as of today. Teen Titans Go to the Movies. I really love this movie, and the more I thought about it, the more I absolutely loved it. Black Klansman. Now, coming out of Black Klansman, I still do not like the ending. It leaves a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth because I think everything that Spike Lee had leading up to it did justice to the story it was trying to tell, but still, I think it's one of the best films of this entire year. Black Panther and Bumblebee. Black Panther, you guys know how I feel about Black Panther. I loved it. I think it's a powerful movie. I think it's an amazing movie, but I just couldn't get it in there. And then finally, Bumblebee. One of the more recent films I've seen. And the more I think about it, the more I just absolutely love that film. I had an absolute blast with it, and I can't wait to go see it again. But without any further ado, let's get into it. And there's no better place to start than with number 10. Number 10 for me is Mission Impossible Fallout. Guys, I've been a big fan of the Mission Impossible franchise, but when you get the best film inside of this franchise at the very end, it's an adrenaline rush, and it's the best action film we have gotten since Mad Max Fury Road. Tom Cruise does that at his absolute best, and Henry Cavill gives his best performance of his entire career. Paddington 2. You know, I wasn't sure what to think about this. This is one of those films that I went in going to see it not only because of getting a review up for you guys, but also it was one of those films that I was recommended to go see. And what I got was the most charming and heartfelt film of this entire year. Paddington 2 is one of those films that not only makes you want to be a better person, it makes you want to be better for society as a whole. And honestly, I couldn't recommend this movie more. Go see it. But now, it's time to move on to number 8. And my number 8 is Game Night is one of those films that when I walked out of it, I thought I had a very, very good time. But the more times I've watched it, and the more times I've thought about it, Game Night to me is the best comedy of this entire year. You know, films like Blockers and Tag, they could have just as easily made it onto this list, but Game Night for me is a comedy that not only impacted me in the fact that I loved it because it was very, very funny and that everybody on screen was having such a fun time, but it leaves a very powerful message about where we are as society, where we are in our relationships, and where we should go moving forward. And Game Night is just one of those films that I feel as long as people are old enough, they should go see. Number 7 is Marvel's 10-year plan. We've been building up to this. Thanos stomped onto the screen, and we got Avengers Infinity War, directed by the Russo brothers. It's quite impressive what they were able to do. Bring all these actors and all of these cast members together to not only create an entertaining ride, but a powerful movie with one of the greatest villains ever put to screen. Avengers Infinity War is one of the best films of this entire year, and it could quite possibly be one of the the best superhero movies that was ever made, if not the best comic book movie ever made. Number 6 for me, as far as I'm aware, this is still my most underrated film of 2018, and it's simply because nobody is talking about this movie, and it's Leave No Trace. Leave No Trace. It's a film with really only 2 sole performances inside of it. Thomasin McKenzie and Ben Foster. And what they were able to do is not only provide a great dynamic between their characters as father and daughter, but they also make you question. They make you question your place as a member of your own family, as a son, as a daughter, as a father, as a mother. They make you reflect and think about things. With all the privileges that we've got, there are still a lot of people that are suffering, and we're just not doing enough. Leave No Trace is one of those films that impacted me when I left the movie theater. I've seen it 3 times, and this is a film experience like no other. Number 5, starting out, it's by who I consider the most revolutionary artist to come out since Childish Gambino, and that is Bo Burnham and his directorial debut of 8th Grade. 8th Grade is a film that not only reflects society and where we are with technology, it gives us a perspective of what the younger generation is going through. 8th Grade, it's not only a great and powerful movie, it's a well-written movie, and Bo Burnham provided one of the best screenplays of this entire year. 8th Grade is amazing. Number 4 for me is Won't You Be My Neighbor. I know it's not a stereotypical film that you would get into a movie theater. It's a documentary about the life of Fred Rogers, one of the most impactful people in today's day and age. And Fred Rogers, there will never be another Fred Rogers, which is the sad part of this, but it's a documentary that is probably the most eye-opening film to come out this entire year. So guys, go check it out if you haven't seen it. Now moving on to number 3, you guys know that these are the films that are going to have impacted me the most, made me feel the most, and just made me have more of a groundbreaking experience when I walked out of the movie theater. Number 3 for me is the film that has had so much controversy around it, has been so divisive between the critics and the fans, but for me personally, as a longtime Queen fan, Bohemian Rhapsody had to be my number 3. I was on the fence of whether I was going to have this in my top 10 or where I would put it in my top 10, but thinking about it more and more and how much I love this movie, it couldn't be misplaced. This film is endlessly rewatchable, and that Live Aid scene, that Live Aid concert at the end of the film is one of the best, if not the best theater experiences I have had all year, in the recreation of the greatest rock concert ever made. And it was more than just that. It was a deep, dark personal story that hinted at the darkness that Freddie Mercury, as a very, very lonely artist, had to go through. The film is massively historically inaccurate, but it's just an important film to have, because if there's one thing this film does that's probably the biggest impact it's going to have, is it introduces an entirely new generation to the band Queen and how revolutionary they were. And for me personally, as someone who has grown up listening and loving Queen, this film is like no other to come out this year. Alright, here come the 2 hardest decisions I've had to make. I have these films in the place where they need to be. Either one of these could be in the number 1 spot. But for right now, number 2 for me is Green Book. This is a film I wasn't aware of. This is a film that my buddy Zach Pope told me about. I am so happy that I went out to go see it, because Green Book, probably more than any other film to come out this year, is a film that we need. Because it's a film that teaches you, no matter who you are, no matter what your background is, no matter what kind of trials you're going through, you can connect with people of every kind. You can connect from people of every race, of every culture, of any generation. It's just up to you to make that decision. It's a road trip movie. It's a musical movie. It's a heavy, heavy drama. And this film is just one of those very rare miracles to come out of Hollywood. And Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali, considering they carry the weight of this film, they do a phenomenal job, and I hope they get Oscar consideration. Alright, something tells me I can't keep you guys in suspense, because you could probably guess right from the beginning what my number one of this entire year was going to be. And it's gotta be Bradley Cooper's directorial debut of A Star Is Born. A Star Is Born affected me in a way that I haven't felt in a long time going to the cinema. I mean, beyond Green Book, beyond Bohemian Rhapsody, beyond 8th Grade, or Won't You Be My Neighbor. A Star Is Born for me, as a creative individual who has very big aspirations, it's phenomenal. But it's a heartfelt story about a man who is just broken, about two characters who have flaws, about a man who is brought back from the depths of despair by finding love in somebody. And then the heartbreaking, the darkness, the overall tone of this film left me in tears and left me speechless by the time I ended it. By the time that I walked out of the movie theater. And I have seen this film countless times since it has been released. I've tried to go every single week to see it. There has not been a film that has impacted me in probably the last 5 to 10 years. And in my personal opinion, I do believe that A Star Is Born is the best film to come out within the past 5 to 10 years. And so, that is why, beyond any other reason, A Star Is Born is my number one. And that's it, guys. That is my top 10 best films of 2018. This year has been one heck of a ride, and 2019 is going to be an even bigger ride, and I cannot wait to pick up the pace from where I left off this year and start giving you guys more videos, more content. Myself, my buddy Mr. Zach Pope, we got a lot of stuff headed towards you, and thank you so much for all the support and everything that you've done in the year of 2018. You guys mean the world to me. And of course, if you guys want to see more reviews from me in the year of 2018, you can click right up there. If you want to see the sweet podcast that me and my buddy Zach Pope do, where we talked about our favorite heroes and villains of 2018, you can click right down there. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right there and subscribe and become part of the fray of nerds who love cinema. You all have a fantastic day.